NBA scouts know about. But why don't we move on and talk about how good do you really think this team is now? I mean, we have, of course, Arizona self-imposed that one-year postseason ban on themselves earlier this season. So, although they're not allowed to play in the NCAA tournament in March or compete in the Pac-12 tournament, they can, however, still win the Pac-12 regular season title by having the best record in the conference. They got a little bit of work to do if they want to do that. They're currently sixth in the conference with a 4-3 record. And the bad news about that is that UCLA is sitting pretty at the top of the standings with a 6-0 record. So, although there's a ton of games left, I think there's more than half of the conference season left. There's certainly some work to be done. But what do you think about this team, Ryan? I mean, does this team, still have a chance at winning the Pac-12 regular season title at this point?
I think we're going to find out a lot about this team actually this week. They go on the road to Arizona State for an interstate battle, and then they come home next Thursday, the following Thursday, for a game against Stanford. And those are two good teams. Arizona State's record doesn't look too pretty yet, but they have a lot of talented players, and I think that game will be very close. And I think they have an outside shot to win the regular season title, but I wouldn't make any bets about that. I mean, like you said, UCLA just looks so dominant, and they're so deep too, and they don't seem like they're going anywhere. But I mean, to me, it's not about that. It's about the development of these guys, just how promising this young core looks. I mean, like, if like a lot of these guys can return next year, and if you got a lot of these guys returning, and you got older players coming back, and they all stay healthy, hopefully, they could make a run in the postseason next year, which is it's an exciting time. And yeah, like another thing that Sean Miller told me when I asked him about Taveras' improvement was that he really has noticed over the last 10 to 15 days how much he has grown and really, taking that step forward. And he said now on the offensive end, they look for him every time, and to get him his work. And he said he's been watching Taveras play for a few years now, and he's always thought that he could get to this level. But I think this team has a bright future, but I don't know if it's their season this year to win the regular season.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're on the outside looking in right now. I think if you asked me this question last week, I probably would have told you that this is one of the best teams in the conference. I mean, they were, just flying through their schedule up until that weekend against the LA schools. I mean, that weekend was rough. Like, those two teams, beat the crap out of Arizona. Like, they were, like I said, they were flying through that schedule. They had that one hiccup against Stanford, but that, those two games against USC and UCLA were really a reality check. I mean, I think they're kind of sitting more of the middle of a pack now after those two games, kind of seeing, how they fared against one of the two better teams in the conference. But, that game against Stanford was, definitely winnable. Like, I'm not concerned about that loss. Like, there were a lot of bad calls in that game. Like, the refs were a little bit tough on Arizona, but, they didn't get blown out. So, but those two games against the LA schools were really rough. Like, the defense was god awful. Like, Sean Miller even said it after the UCLA game. He was ripping his boys a new one. He was saying, like, he straight up said, he was like, we're a horrible defensive team or something like that. It was bad. Like, he was ripping into them. Like, a lot of guys, were getting into foul trouble as well. Like, they had like 3-4 fouls and, halfway through the second half. Like, it was really bad. Like, so it's tough to say, kind of how good this team really is now. Now that we saw them kind of struggle against two of the better teams in this conference. But I don't know. I think the good thing about this is that the rest of UCLA's schedule looks a little bit tougher than Arizona's. I mean, UCLA still has to play Oregon twice, USC twice, and then they got Stanford one more time on their schedule as well. As for Arizona, I think I think they got Stanford one more time, Oregon, USC, and UCLA just one time. So that you're looking at like 5 tough games for UCLA as opposed to maybe 3 or 4 tough games for Arizona. But no, I don't know. It'll be tough to see because we also have to remember that there's more than 2 teams in this conference. Like, Arizona is 5. There's 5 teams ahead of Arizona right now in the Pac-12 conference. So it's not like you can't just sit here and say that USC and Oregon can't just make a run and win the regular season title as well and get the best record. But I don't know. I think it's doable, but like you said, I think they're on the outside looking in, and if they get hot, maybe. But if they start playing defense the way that they play defense against USC and UCLA, like pack it up. Like there's no way they can win, playing defense like that. But they got a good offense, so who knows what this team can do.
Yeah, and